In 1718, prior to the Revolutionary War, the first machine gun was invented. Designed by James Puckle, a British inventor, lawyer, and writer, the Puckle gun was capable of firing 9 rounds per minute via a flintlock revolver. Although the weapon itself was designed to prevent enemies from boarding ships belonging to the British, it nevertheless proved the evolution of weaponry. In 1775, American patriot David Bushnell invented the turtle as a means to attach explosives to British ships while stationed in harbors just before the beginning of the Revolutionary War. The turtle was the first submersible craft with a documented record of use in combat. Designed to be used against the British Royal Navy, even George Washington provided funds and support for development and testing of the machine, regardless of his doubts. With the evolution of weaponry in mind, the Founding Fathers wrote into the framework, "shall not be infringed" for one specific reason: to ensure that the citizens of the United States would have the adequate tools available to them to repel enemy forces, both foreign and domestic. With time, however, the words "shall not be infringed" slowly began to blur. Administration after administration perpetually reinterpreted every American citizen's natural-born right to self-defense by requiring permits for the evolution of weaponry. This infringement took off during the 1930s when the federal government proclaimed that average citizens shall not be able to possess automatic weaponry, or in other words, the 1934 National Firearms Act. Although the claim was to prevent the gangsters of that era from possessing especially lethal weapons, it was nevertheless the first proof that criminals will not listen to the law, and that such a law only restricts the law-abiding. Shortly thereafter, the Gun Control Act of 1968 was passed, requiring citizens to obtain licenses in order to buy, sell, or trade interstate weapons. This was also the beginning of procedures that tracked the serial numbers of all weapons, another decision that primarily only affected the law-abiding. Then in 1986, the Firearms Owners Protection Act was passed as a guise that every citizen's right to bear arms would be protected and restored if need be. However, all the bill clearly did was make it illegal for everyday citizens to own a machine gun or a weapon that fired more than 1 round at the squeeze of a trigger without proper government permission, or in other words, licensing. Then in 93, the Brady Law was passed, requiring background checks for those who want a weapon, which again affected the law-abiding and their wallets. And again in 94 with Clinton's assault weapons ban, which made magazines with more than 10 rounds illegal in specific states as they were identified as large capacity magazines, as well as the bill focused primarily on semi-automatic weaponry. Fortunately, the bill expired in 2004. All of this legislation has only affected the law-abiding. Requiring licensing in order to possess a weapon of choice for defense is an infringement on the right to bear arms. This is what we are here to realize once again. As American citizens, we do not consent. As American citizens, we will not comply. It is time to realize how important the words "shall not be infringed" are, and to realize what an infringement is. We do this by studying our history to understand our present and our future. The Founding Fathers never intended a standing army to be so well equipped because they experienced this firsthand. They intended that every American citizen be well armed and well regulated in place of a standing army. It's a comforting thought to realize that so many hundreds of years ago, men like George Washington pondered what weapons of the future may be like. With the Puckle gun and the turtle as just some of their examples, they knew that one day weapons would be capable of firing hundreds, if not thousands of rounds per minute, and that explosives would be able to be delivered miles and miles away. And yet, they still wrote into the framework, "shall not be infringed." It is time to take back the definition of infringements from our current administration. It is time to tell them that we no longer consent nor comply, and that we, as American citizens, will possess the weaponry available to us and render all legislation against this right null and void.